Hi, I'm Pam, and I would like to welcome you to the Live Authentically show. On my show, I talk to people about how they live authentic lives and about how they help others connect to the essence of who they are. I would love to invite you to join my Facebook group, where we have a group of like-minded individuals committed to their spiritual growth and transformation. You can find us at liveauthentically.today/FB. I'm super excited to be launching my first book. It will be out in early 2020, and it's a spiritual journey through my personal growth and transformation and self-actualization, and contains all of the keys that you need to unlock the secrets of the universe so that you can create the reality that you desire. On today's show, I'm very excited to have Juliette Stapleton with us. She is a visibility strategist and specializes in personal branding and helps to take people from, I love this line, Juliette, invisible to impactful. That's super, super powerful. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Pamela, for having me. I'm so excited, and I can't wait until you release your book. I love this story of taking the low point, taking the point where you think that, you can't fall any further, and actually turning it around completely.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And that's the whole idea, is to kind of help usher people from that place of being hopeless or in fear to a place of claiming their personal power. So I'm delighted to have you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here.
I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. So I always start off every show, regardless of who my guest is, with the same question. And that question is, what does it mean to you to live authentically every day?
Oh, I love this question. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It really means exercising self-appreciation, self-love, being in the flow and connected within to yourself and with people and any living creature in your life, connected to this planet, connected to the energy around us. And I'm really on the good path to, I don't think that there is an end destination, but living within that sort of environment and being able to fine tune and being very aware of where you are and bringing you back into that good place. This is what I am about. This is how I am living every day. And this is what I wouldn't have changed ever for the world.
And how do you feel? I mean, now that you're living in this space of connectedness, how does that feel? Maybe if you could speak to that a little bit for our listeners, some of whom may just be getting started off on their journeys. What does that feel like to you to experience that connectedness?
Maybe to contrast and to explain exactly what I'm saying, maybe I should just mention first where it started. And, because it's important to know, I don't believe that, well, I do believe that we're born to be that. We're born to live connected. We're born to live in the flow. We're born to trust our intuition. That's what we're born as. And then, everything interferes in society and we get preconditioned. We hear all these stories, we have some of the memories, genetical memories, cultural things, and everything that all these influences, and they sort of start constraining us, putting chains around us, and the more we allow this to happen, we don't know, because it takes time for us. Obviously we have to have life experience, we have lessons that we need to go through. It takes time for us to start realizing that maybe that feeling of dissatisfaction that you have with your environment is not because this is a bad environment doing something to you. Maybe it's internal. Maybe this is something that you are not admitting to yourself, that you can take responsibility for your life and maybe start co-creating, with, I don't believe things are happening to us. I don't think that we are, carrying the world on our shoulders. I think that those are all limiting stories we're telling ourselves. But I think that there is I believe that there is a destiny for each of us. We are born for some sort of big mission. And it's not necessarily a set in stone destiny. It's still up to you where you're going to take this potential that you have. And so just getting in tune with finding that purpose or stepping into that purpose, and all the time try and step into the bigger version of yourself. And this is where, my tagline, you said from invisible to impactful. And even though I teach people on, how to be visible online, but at the end of the day, there's more to it. There's more internal feeling invisible, acting invisible, hiding, not allowing that light that you have to shine. And so by pushing the resistance to do scary things that feel scary, that will expose you or that will not allow you to hide anymore. In my business, it would be, reaching out to people in private messages, a scary thing, or doing live video, a very scary thing. And by pushing that comfort zone, you're stretching it, you're growing into that bigger version of yourself. And that is where you get that flow, because it's a really peaceful place where you can really get in touch with your intuition. For me, I was born, I was a very positive and forward-thinking child. And, I was a very high energy child. I was a leader because I naturally was born to lead. But in my 30s, I had that moment where life wasn't that kind to me. Things were happening, everything felt like it was crumbling. I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. Everything depended on me, and I didn't know what to do because I felt completely out of control. I felt like other people were making decisions for me. And I didn't feel like that child that I was, or even, during my teen years when I went through school, I wasn't like a good looking kid, and, I was very visible. So I got some bullying as well and things like that. When an ugly duckling becomes visible, kids get cruel. But that didn't bother me then. But in my 30s, I've experienced almost the same thing, because there was a certain brilliance and leadership that I had, but I was completely misplaced where I was working, and what I was, people that were around me just felt insecure because they felt my energy and my light. And that wasn't aligned to them. I'm also not a socialite, and, I do stand out. And that was all sort of used. I felt like it was used against me. I remember probably around 2011, and I was I was about 35. I felt like I'm falling into a bottomless pit, and there is no end. And things are happening, and there is just worse and worse and worse and worse things are happening, and no end. And I was saying, when am I going to hit the bottom? Because when you hit the bottom, the only way is up. Right. Well, you just feel like that's never going to happen. And something inside me, and I think that this knowledge that things they have to be better than this. I am someone who believes, and this belief will never leave me, is that things will work out at the end. If something is not working out now, that means that there's a way to change this in some way. And I've come to a conclusion that it's within me, and I am the only one who can change it. I don't wait for things. I don't buy lottery tickets. I don't wait for things to happen to me, because I've done this and it's a waste of time. So now I want to take action. And yes, it's scary. Yes, it's, feels dangerous. But every time I take the action, and every time I discover that it wasn't that scary, or looking back thinking, well, that was worth it, and now I feel much happier that I have done this. And that adds to how you feel about yourself, so absolutely. So this is kind of, and so it took me about 6 years now to change my thinking, to start focusing on these good things, and just slowly but surely fall into that place where you are trusting your intuition, you're taking action every day, and you're living the life that you choose to live.
That's wonderful. So I'd like to go back to that moment where you said, things can't, how much worse can things get? And I'm feeling really low, and am I at the bottom? And what were some game changers for you? Because I know that so many people, regardless of what their journey is, I think that most people who I know anyways, have been at some pretty low points before, whether they've dealt with an illness, or if they're dealing with grief or loss, or, a special needs child, or whatever their situation is. I know some people who have had some really, really, really low moments where they've been full of hopelessness, despair, etc. And what were some of the game changers for you? Were there changes in thought processes? Was there, what prompted a shift for you? And what would you say to those people who are in that space? Because I'd like to kind of start there and sort of walk through the chronology and show people. I'm really big into not just telling, but showing. So how did you go from that place to where you are now, which is full of light and shining your light into the world and soaring and thriving and all of those things that were probably really hard to see back when you were at your low point?
You know what? I think that I need to start with a step before I hit the low point, because something brings us there, right? So what is that allows us to get into that low point? And for me, it was taking a step back. So while I was a natural, I mentioned that I was, a natural born leader. I was always taking initiative. I was always the one that drove the agenda. And then I got married, and with my husband, I didn't want to take the lead. I wanted him to lead, and I took the step back. But what happened is that it wasn't a natural place for me to be. So by allowing someone else to drive the agenda, and I was convinced that I'm enjoying this, but I stopped listening to what I want or what I need, and I started agreeing to decisions that I didn't actually ever take part in a way. And so while giving away your power, personal power, it brings you then to a very disempowered place. So this is what I think happened. So then what happened is that I started working with, and naturally you attract people who treat you more and more like this. When you're not in full alignment with yourself, you will attract people who are in alignment with your current state. And so when you're in the disempowered state, you will attract people who will make you feel more like this, I believe. So that's what happened to me. Especially it was my family. I'm very, very blessed and happy. And, I met my other half. But in my life, it was all within the work environment. And I think it's also because I was natural born entrepreneur, and that's why I'm self-driven and everything. And for me to be in an employment situation, it's much more difficult, So I felt like I was in places where there was a lot of bullying. There was a lot of not accepting me for who I am, not seeing, when I'm genuinely trying to make the business better, not seeing my efforts, a lot of these things just made me feel really, really bad. At one point, and one of the turning points for me was when I lost the job and I lost any sort of income. There was no, and nobody else worked in my family at the moment. And I felt like it's up to me to do something. So instead of going to the social welfare and signing up and doing that kind of route, taking that route, I went in and I signed up. I registered as a self-employed. And I went in knocking at the doors and, going to all people I knew. And I knew the best thing I could do at the moment, or at that moment, was to help people with their Facebook pages. Because I was always very, technical, and I loved Facebook and the social media. I'm very good at creating connections. So, that was a kick, and it was something very unnatural to me because I'm a shy person. I don't really talk to strangers. And what was the biggest problem is that I was always afraid to ask for promotion. I kind of expected people to recognize how brilliant I am and promote me, instead of going there and say, hey, I am this and I'm doing this and these are my results. I deserve a promotion. That was a really horrible thing. So you're waiting, you're working, you're doing your best, and then you're waiting, you never get recognized. And that's very damaging for your self-esteem as well. So for me to go and register as a self-employed, start knocking at the door, coming in saying, I can transform your Facebook page or relationships with your clients, and I can take what you have in house and transcend it and bring it to the online space. And I could do this. I had track record that I did that already with some things as a hobby. So I was that was one of the turning points, which was my decision, basically, that no one else will do what I can do. And so there's no way I can wait for something to happen. That was the kick in the backside that I needed. And I started taking control. Now, it took me 4 to 5 years from that point to actually really think about, am I in control? Because even though I knocked on the doors and I got the clients, it was brilliant. I got a few clients. I was absolutely fine at the moment. Went on holidays with my family. I thought, okay, this is sorted. Then I was doing such a great job, got more clients through word of mouth. I didn't have to pitch myself, didn't have to sell myself. And see, this is a keyword. I didn't have to sell myself, like I didn't ask for promotions. I didn't have to be in that situation. And yet after a while, and I'm based in a very small rural location, where I then ended up working with all prominent businesses in every industry, and I obviously couldn't work with their competition. So I hit the ceiling, and I realized that for 4 or 5 years, I was just sending my invoices instead of getting paychecks, but I'm still just an employee working for these businesses. I'm not actually in control of my life. I still feel vulnerable. I work with people I don't really like because of the fact that they're paying me, and not because I'm choosing who to have in my life, how to have my life in this flow. So there was still some negative things were happening to me. I was still attracting people who were, misaligned and bullies and things like that. And so the next turning point was as well, and it came with a big bang, and it was 2017. And I started feeling just before that something is, something needs to change. I need to take control. And then my husband got diagnosed with cancer, and it was a very sudden diagnosis. He started feeling kind of unwell. We thought it was a flu, and literally within 2-3 weeks he wasn't getting better, and they said it's stage 4 lymphoma cancer. And we did not know at that point even how it's going to go. And I know I call him my husband, but we actually had a very long engagement. So it was 3 weeks before our wedding. We decided to, finally get married. And 3 weeks before that, we didn't know. And then if you know the movie with Marisa Tomei and Robert Downing Jr., Only You, they have this story about her, chasing her love. And so the crew on Italian plane, they stopped the plane for her to reach her guy. And so I had the same story where the medical crew in the hospital was doing everything they could to get my husband to walk in a way down the aisle, although it was a very, very modest registration. But he barely walked, but he walked, and we got married. And, this was the start of, that's where I knew. And I remember that day, the turning point, and it was really like something you write a book about, when I left him in the hospital and I drove home, and I woke up in the morning and I didn't know what to do, because normally I am very solution focused, and in this point I didn't know what to do. And so what I did, I listened to my soul. I sat there and I just listened to this like one word answer from my soul, and didn't listen to my head, which was very stressed. And I just said, what's happening? I need to know. And I heard this very clear voice saying everything is going to be okay. So you need to focus on something else. And the same day, I thought to myself, I need to find guidance. I don't know what to do. And just by magic, 3 amazing people showed up in my life. 2 of them are huge names, like John Assaraf. I'm asking, I need guidance. And I hear the knock on the door, and the letter comes in, handwritten letter from John Assaraf, whose program I just enrolled. And he just has this kind of thing that he sends, with his team. And I got one from him. And it said about life, being constantly evolving. And even sometimes horrible things happen to us, but maybe it's not the end of the road. Maybe it's like a snake who needs to shed the skin. It's a painful process, but then you get, to the new life, new state. And that was one of the things. And there was another, 2 people. One of them was just somebody I commented on Facebook. I said, my husband just got diagnosed with cancer. What do I do? And this lady said, I'm going to jump on a Skype call with you because my husband just been in this situation. We just been in this situation. What she said to me changed my life, because she said, don't give cancer any energy. Don't give that negative thing in your life any energy. You need to focus on something else. And even if you are visiting your husband in the hospital and you feel like there's a lot of energy, especially in the wards, could be a lot of energy you're picking up from other people, then go away, go to the coffee shop, have your cappuccino, enjoy yourself, go back. You need to be strong, but you need to be in this good energy vibe. And I said, okay, that's a good advice, because I don't want, and I know I can fixate on negativity as I did, in years previously. And I trained myself not to do this. And I was so, on that line where I could have probably done it again. And so instead of focusing on my negativity, I started focusing on my dreams. I said, okay, what do I want? I want him to recover, of course. But after he recovers, what do I want? When the whole thing with cancer, please God, it's going to happen. But when he recovers, what do I want? And I knew what I wanted. I wanted a location-free online business. I wanted to reach and impact millions of people. And, I knew that I'm going to do it with video. I knew I'm going to do it with my personal brand, with my visibility. I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I started, didn't know how, didn't have a clue even how to run a business, because as I said, I didn't have to. And that was a big turning point, focusing on that point of your dreams, not what the immediate outcome you want, but a point beyond that. And so now fast forward 3 years, my husband is well, and it's miracle, but it's his battle and his journey. I couldn't do anything about it. I just had to let him, deal with that. And I have a business impacting, thousands of students in 30 countries around the globe. I have built my brand. And that was that moment when I said, I can focus on the good things and I can do it. And I can take full control. And that was just an amazing change of my thinking.
That is incredibly powerful. What an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. You said something that was particularly powerful that I want to go back to for our listeners and viewers. And when you were talking about this story, there was never any doubt about your belief in the outcome. And I think that that's just so powerful to be able to look beyond what's actually ensuing in our reality, excuse me, which oftentimes feels like chaos. It's absolute chaos on the surface, but having that trust, having that deep down trust filled knowingness that there is a greater plan at work. And sometimes these challenges are placed in our life and they seem like hurdles or roadblocks that we can't get through at the time, but they are actually stepping stones, and they're actually opportunities that invite other people into our lives who are meant to be on our journeys that propel us. And it's often very difficult to peer through the mist and see that at the time. But one thing that I heard you, and as you talked about this, you anchored on a point, a positive point of love and peace and light and happiness down the road. And you didn't necessarily know how you were going to get from where you were to that point, but you kept, I'm literally getting chills as I say this, because I do when things resonate.
Me too. I'm the same.
In universal consciousness, but you had that point and you stayed fixated not on what was ensuing in your reality, which probably felt really overwhelming and super challenging, but you stayed focused on that. And you said after he recovers, not if he recovers, but after he recovers. And that's the key to manifesting. That's the key to co-creating with the universe, as you know, and I'm just highlighting this for our viewers and listeners because it's so powerful, is we need to say it like it's done. That's how we create our reality. We say it like it's done. We envision our reality. You know what? This is just a little something we're going through right now. We're going to get through it. And this is what my life is going to look like then. This is how I'm going to create my life. And this is where I'm going to put my energy. And I think that is just the most powerful thing we can do, is to put ourselves, to launch ourselves, project ourselves into that space, bypass everything that's going on here and launch ourselves to that place. I will say it's easier said than done. I've been there before and it can be a challenge sometimes. So I do want to get into what you do on a daily basis in your business, because that is absolutely so impactful and powerful. But one thing I'd like to hear you speak about, because you obviously have overcome this, you've mastered this, and this is a huge game changer for people, is how do you compartmentalize? How do you, in the midst of chaos and in the midst of whatever hardship is going on in your life, how is it that you're able to, okay, I'm at the hospital visiting my husband now, but then I'm going to go to the coffee shop and I'm going to focus on my work. I'm going to focus on something else. That's so hard, at least for me. I know that's been part of my journey too, is I've had to overcome that. When I've had huge stressors going on in my life in the past, I was always carrying them with me no matter what I did. So if I was at a party, it would be hard for me to truly enjoy and live in the moment and celebrate the occasion at the party, because I still had something kind of, hanging over my head, this huge stressor. So do you have any points or any tips for people on how do you just shift? Like, I left the hospital and now I'm doing my soul work. Now I'm pouring my energy into something that fuels me. How do you, how can you delineate those?
It's a very good question, and I also think that you sometimes you might struggle doing that. It depends on where you are, because at the moment where my husband got sick, and I that's why I started way before that. Normally I don't tell really the story of me, losing my everything and then registering as a self-employed, but the reason when that happened, I was still fixating on negativity. I remember fixating. Okay. So for the first 2 years when I was working with some people, and they anything they did that was misaligned me, or they were just not great people to work with, I would fixate on that. I'd think about it all day. It was insane. Me and my husband, we would go to the beach for doing some walks, and I would talk about it for hours and hours and hours. And at around 2013, I realized that what I fixate, that's what happens. So very slowly, step by step, I started pulling myself away from fixating on negativity. So when in 2017, then what happened with my husband, and I think that that's where my whole survival instincts kicked in. because, you know, we have those instincts, we all have them, but also, and I mentioned John Assaraf, and the reason why I follow John Assaraf, because he's all about how we think. It's all about neuroscience, how the brain works and how we think, what is the comfort zone, what it does to us. I absolutely love understanding what's happening to us, for example, when we worry, what happens to us when we feel that we're scared. And a lot of those things are physical, and they're completely not real. They're just, you know, we feel danger where there is never a danger. It's like, and I don't want to talk about, you know, what I do in my business on this show, because it's a different area. But say, for example, if you want to do a live video and you're real resisting it, you're scared, but nobody ever came out of the camera and grabbed you, and you know, nobody died. So this fear is completely unfounded, and you can still do it. So when my husband got sick, myself and actually my daughter, surprisingly, we went into this, I'm going to say it, and don't get it the wrong way, just try and understand maybe where I'm coming from. My daughter called it an assassin mode. It was emotion-free mode, because when you allow your emotions to take over you, you become reactive, and you allow the brain and the chatter in your brain, that worry, that, you know, nagging voice, you allow it to rule your life. However, that's not where your soul lives, because your soul lives in stillness. Your soul lives in a peace, state of peace. That's why we are able to, you know, reconnect with ourselves during meditations where we slow down. And so that's, I think, and although my daughter calls it an assassin mode, but I think that it was the stillness. You know, I went into this peace, and, you know, even though I was given an advice to go and have a coffee with my husband, I didn't do it. I didn't go to him and then leave him in his bed and go and have a coffee. I didn't have to, you know, but what I did is I tried to have a coffee, bring him to the coffee shop, even if it was hard for him to walk. I'd bring him there as well. And I'd spend some time with him. But then when I had to drive, and in our situation, it was a disaster, because the hospital was 2 hours drive, you know, it was 4 hours driving. I couldn't go every day to my husband. In fact, sometimes he'd go there for the week, because he had a really extreme chemo when he was on a drip, you know, chemo for 7 days in a row. And I couldn't go there. And also, you know, I had other logistics that this drive wasn't part of what I could do with being a sole breadwinner at home as well, and things like that, and daughter in school and school runs. So I didn't have to do that. But when he was at home, I tried to spend time with him. It was difficult, because I'm very obsessive personality. I'm very excited. So you know, when I started getting visible online, I reconnected with a lot of people, connected with a lot of people. And it was a good thing, because I actually got support. I got support I needed that I didn't have around me. And I mentioned I'm not a socialite, so I don't really have a social scene. I don't have friends here that I hang out with. Ireland is a very, I'm in Ireland. I think that we might have talked about it before we started this show, but I'm in Ireland, and Ireland is not a aligned place with me, and you know, and I am grateful and appreciate everyone. I have some people I'm call friends, but it's not like soulmates. So it's not the same culture. So for me to go online and find that, and find people who truly support you online space, and unlike some people think or see from their news feeds, is actually a very supportive place when you connect to people, you know, soul to soul, one to one. It's an amazing place, and you get to really discover your true soul family. You connect to people who are, you know, like, you know, I'm connected to John Assaraf, and we're all connected, but they're people you feel. You know, there's other people like Elizabeth Peru, my spiritual guide and cosmic guide I follow. I'm connected to her. She was the third person who I just sent, and I have to tell you this story. This is where a story about asking. You know, I emailed on that one day. This is all the same one day after the diagnosis. I emailed Elizabeth Peru's team. I did not. She has a huge page. I never expected, you know, that to email her. And I just said, I have a selection of your meditations. Which is the best for stress? Like, what is the best meditation for me to just release this stress and just maybe channel this in a good way? And literally within 2 hours, I'm getting an email from Elizabeth herself saying that she did a reading, she tuned into my energy, everything's going to be okay, I'm a rock, continue doing it. And I still follow Elizabeth's page, and sometimes I comment. I'm a top fan on her page. I don't go obsessively commenting, but I comment sometimes. And once I expressed gratitude, and I said, I'm so glad, you know, that this happened. Remember, you sent me an email, and look at me now. I've built a business. I'm, it's healthy. And she said, yes, I remember. So we connect to people. There is a person in Australia, Elizabeth Peru, who is somehow connected to me, and I feel it. And she's, made this impact in my life. This is the impact I'm making in my life with my people that I connect to. And this is what my mission is as well. So whether it's done through spiritual guidance like Elizabeth does, or online visibility like I do, I think it's all about this feeling and connectedness, in the world, in this universal consciousness, as you mentioned. Definitely. And that's an amazing thing. So focusing on, on stillness is the key when things like that happen. Not allowing chatter in your head is only, it's your comfort zone. It's just, comfort zone wants to protect you. It's like a loving, overprotective mother. The worst kind of mother that does everything because she loves you, but it's all these things that they just destroy you and suffocate you. That's what your brain is. You can't listen to it.
Right.
It's the soul that's the guidance. It's the soul, and soul doesn't speak and chatter. Soul doesn't worry. Soul thrives when you trust. It gives you one word or one vision, or no weighing direction. And I started practicing this, and especially after my husband got sick. But I think it's more about me doing the whole visibility thing, because you have to evolve all the time. And this what I was practicing. And so now this trusting your gut and trusting that knowing thing, it leads my life now. But it took time. So yeah, just don't pay attention, or try and block off the chatter and go into the stillness as much as you want if you're stressed out and if there's something horrible things happening. I think that would be my advice.
That is such powerful advice. And I know it took me several years, decades actually, and some pretty challenging life experiences to take that journey from my head to my heart. I used to be, very left brain, analytical, math, just logical, everything had an analysis or research associated with it, or numbers, or I was always trying to, apply logic or reason or justify it. And, I didn't always make the best decisions when I was, in my head space is what I call it. But once I decided to take the journey, or actually once life kind of pushed me off the edge of the diving board and said, guess what, you're going to take the journey from your head to your heart. I had no other choice. I had no other choice but to go within and start to let my soul lead my life, because there were some moments where, my head just wasn't going to lead me to the right place. I had no choice but to go within and be still and let my soul speak to me. And like you said, you used the word stillness. I think that in today's society, it's incredibly difficult to find that stillness, because we are inundated with so many different forms of communications. Life is totally frenzied, so fast paced. I mean, we are expected to respond to messages, pretty much real time. It's very overwhelming. So, and I think a lot of people don't even realize that we have this whole other realm out there available to us via, universal energy, spirit guides. We don't even realize that we can, or don't know how to stop and go within and listen to our, sit in stillness and sit in peace and tranquility and just listen for those messages and listen for those words to come in from our soul. So what advice do you have? I know you're big on intuition. I am as well. I mean, intuition is what runs my business. It's what runs my life. What guidance do you have for people who say, I don't even know where to get started. I don't even know where to get started. How do I begin to tap into that space?
It's a great question, actually. The most important thing is to remove expectation that is going to happen overnight. It might take you decades to get that. And in fact, if I think about when I started, it's almost a decade when I started consciously doing that, and consciously bringing me. And now I do trust. And yes, intuition leads everything, even private messages. By the way, can I just give a very practical advice about the messages? Because what you said, they're almost expecting to reply in real time. It is so important with messages to put yourself first. I'm going to give you permission, if you're not giving it to yourself, not to reply to messages until you decide you have time for it. No, my husband is a little bit like that. He's not in my space, and he would be chatting to someone, and I'm saying, well, this is our family time right now. But he's like, I have to reply. you don't have to reply. It's not a phone call. If you want to talk to somebody, you know, back and forth, give them a phone, you know, a call. But we are not calling each other these days. We are on text. And text, you know, comes with, you have to put yourself first. You have to set boundaries with these things to allow this stillness to happen. For me, trust me, I am online all the time. I'm not working as much as I did before, but I love studying and learning. And, you know, I watch videos. And when I'm tired of all that, I watch cat videos to, you know, dump my brain and to elevate myself and, you know, elevate my energy and things like that. But there is a lot, you know, my brain is constantly in an overdrive. So I need to make rules for myself and stick to them. That's the hardest. You can expect somebody else to, you know, you lay out rules and you're like, you have to do this. But for yourself to follow those rules is the hardest task. So this is where you start. You start creating boundaries for yourself. You know, times where there is no technology around, times where something happens, and before you say yes, you say, okay, you know what, fantastic, yeah, that sounds great, but can I get back to you in 3 weeks? You start saying no, And actually, like, my sister is so much better than me. She says, no is a complete sentence. And she also says to me, beside you, there's me. And so my sister, who is so wise, and she understands this, you know, that's what I've learned, because I was a people pleaser and, you know, warrior and constantly fixating on things. You have to allow yourself. So just with daily small steps, one of the good things, and I know not everybody, when you say it's great to meditate, but not everybody, and I was like this, you know, you might have no time, or not that you don't have time, but there is no circumstances. So for example, I like getting up. My husband is also working from home. So I like getting up with my husband, having coffee with my husband. I like to spend as much time as I can with him, because I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this office. And so somebody says to me, you need to meditate in the morning. That presents a problem, because that takes away the joy of waking up together. That takes away the joy of having coffee together. You know, then I have to stick. So what my advice to you is, if you have that situation where you can't actually go and do these things particularly, at least close your eyes and just listen to stillness. That's when you reconnect. Learn, there's a couple of very, very good, you know, breathing techniques, you know, to calm your circuit. So to calm your nerves. Actually, in terms of, can I give you a practical advice for breathing exercises? This is from John Assaraf. This is from his book, Inner Size, which is a brilliant book to understand how subconscious mind works, and a great read. And he has this exercise and it's really good to relax, to just reconnect with yourself, but also if something horrible happened or something unexpected happened and you're panicking, because when you're panicking, you can't think straight. So you need to calm your circuit. So you take a deep breath with your nose, in your nose. You take a deep breath in, but you breathe out as if through the straw. And it's just in the way you're breathing out, it releases the tension physically. But you can also add a little affirmation to that, and you can say, I'm breathing in calmness, I'm breathing out stress. I'm breathing in happiness, I'm breathing out distress. I am breathing in peace, I'm breathing out headache. Whatever you're experiencing, you can also accompany it with your thoughts like that, and just take 6 of them, 6 in a row. And it's unbelievable. It works with pain, it works with stress, it works with to just reconnect with yourself. And sometimes if I can't fall asleep, I quietly breathe out through the straw just to fall asleep, to relax my body when my mind is very active. And this is something that can practically help you. So simple, couldn't be more simple. You don't need to put headphones, listen to guided meditation or anything. You can do it anywhere you want.
Excuse me.
And this is my advice to you, how to start doing that and start practicing this. So don't expect quick results, and fall in love with the process. Because when we have expectations of a result, when is it going to happen? When am I going to feel happy? It's never going to happen. There's no end result, because there's always a new level or new lesson will present itself, and it's how you deal with it. You learn to manage it. So you need to fall in love with daily things. And that's where I think the secret is.
I love that. And I totally agree. I mean, for me, it's been a process of self-discovery, and I've just had to immerse myself in where I was, and knowing that where I was at that point was where I was supposed to be. And I think so many times we just get so focused on the destination. When am I going to get there? And we miss out on, or we miss out on all that rich discovery, that self-discovery and growth and transformation that's happening right in front of us. So I love that tool. Thank you for sharing that. And what I love about it is, like you said, it's so simple and it's accessible. We can do it anywhere. It's not, we don't need any equipment or anything to carry with us. It's something that's available to us, and it's accessible no matter where we are. So thank you for sharing that. And I think
it's very powerful, very powerful. You will just try it and you will be surprised.
Okay, I am going to try that. Thank you for sharing that. I am always looking to incorporate new modalities into my regimens. So thanks for sharing that. I would love to talk. I know we're not going to, we don't have to focus on what you do in your business on a daily basis, but I'd love to have you share anything you'd like to share on any level about it, either kind of from a practical day-to-day perspective or from an energetic perspective. I mean, I'd love to have you touch on kind of how you magnetize clients. And that's, I'll kind of let you, I'll turn this over to
love this.
Tell about your energy that I'm kind of sensing that you don't have to work real hard in order to attract clients. Your energy speaks for itself. I mean, just by you showing up in this authentic, empowered place naturally draws clients to you. And that's kind of, what I'm sensing. And I'm wondering if you can speak about that.
I love that you said that. And in fact, I love that you even used these words, because it's a yes and no answer to this question. And I want to show, so I want to start from the start. So where the biggest change happened in my energies and the way I see everything and the way how I got aligned. And now everyone in my life right now is super aligned with me. And when somebody stops being aligned with me, which is fine because we grow and evolve and sometimes change of direction happens, I recognize that. And instead of grabbing onto it or being sometimes, just being polite, I actually, I try and move away from people who are not aligned with me. So it's a great way to be, because you're putting yourself and your energy first. The energy will then affect everything. It will affect how productive you are. It will affect how creative you are. It will affect how loving you are to others, because you are exercising self-love to yourself. The only thing that and the journey of me growing my personal brand, that means showing up as Juliette Stapleton with my face, talking to people on video, talking to people privately, and really with value first and caring about them while growing my business. That was a journey of changing how I saw myself. And I say, in visibility, online visibility, no matter how scary it feels to you, it's the journey of self-empowerment, 1000%. I would not change anything for the world, but you have to be prepared to do things that are uncomfortable for you just because you're not used to them. For example, live video. For example, the scariest thing is outreach. That's something that, especially if you're a soulful person and you maybe had the same background, people pleaser, you don't like interrupting, you're not asking for, claiming that your greatness deserves a reward, you will have issues. I had a huge block reaching out to people. And yet this is where not only you grow your business. So attraction marketing is not just showing up with your energy and the clients just attract to you energy. Yes, the energy is huge, but you need to get them a chance to connect to that energy. So you need to talk to them, reach out to them, say, hey, I'm here. I'd love to do this for you. I'd love to do this for you. I love this. Your cat looks amazing. Your dog is wonderful. Did you go on holidays? Oh my God, I love travel. You need to connect to people authentically, and not only you're connecting to people and not with the desperation, like, oh, this is going to be my client, but build these relationships and connect to their energy. We're talking about universal consciousness here. It is so rewarding. It's so amazing to be connected to as many other amazing human beings. And there's some of them that not are so amazing for you in terms of compatibility, and that's okay too. So don't be afraid that you're going to be rejected. It's just that this is the wrong person for you, or maybe right now you're in different places and maybe there'll be an alignment some other day. So let it go and let the universe take care of the timing. And so by doing this, you're finding the power, you're finding so much more giving that you have even more, and you're not hiding it. You're not, for me, as they call me the queen of visibility, and I'm discovering how many forms of hiding They are. Some people call it procrastination, some people call it fear, but there's forms of hiding, and they're in so many. Every time when you bust through some sort of barrier and you get used to it, you will see the next one, you will see the next one. And I think that the only way to deal with this is you need to focus on you're learning to manage these energies and how your fears, your expectations, everything, rather than expecting that after this barrier is broken, that's going to be now the happy life and free for all. Like, I don't know, there's some sort of like a great idea of what's behind it, but it's not about that. It's about the journey. You know, our life is a journey, and maybe there's a journey behind, you know, the point of when the life is over and the journey continues. And I believe that it starts way before we're born. So it is a journey. And I think that it's all about welcoming the lessons, welcoming the fear, doing things that are uncomfortable, because every time there's magic behind that.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think I want to echo one of the things you use the word staying aligned and, you know, moving away from people who aren't in alignment with, excuse me, with who you are. And that is the whole key. I have found, at least through my journey, is staying firmly affixed to my alignment, my connection to source energy, my goals and values and beliefs, and staying fully anchored on that, and asking how everyone and everything does or does not align with who I am. That's really the key, is to stay in full alignment with who we are, and not forcing any connections. I mean, people will come and go through our lives. It's kind of a revolving door. We've got new people coming in all the time, and we've got people leaving, and understanding that that's okay. There have been, excuse me, there have been times in my life in the past where I've tried to force people to stay in my space, or I've tried to invite people in over and over and over again back into my space, and understanding that it's okay to have these healthy disconnections. It's okay to let connections, you know, fall away, because for whatever reason, we are just no longer energetic matches, and that's okay. And I use the word, or the number 7.6 billion all the time. There are 7.6 billion people in the world. Rest assured that if my connection isn't vibing with somebody at the current time, there are plenty of people to go around. Excuse me. They'll find enough people to match them and meet them wherever they are in whatever capacity they need. And so will I. And that's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of life and the magic of life, when we just kind of surrender and trust and have a very fluid, organic, very, very natural flow. And I think that was, excuse me, that was a turning point for me, was realizing that that's okay. It's okay that, you know, that we may not be energetically aligned with everybody at every point in time, but that just opens up. We have to clear the space we have to clear our space before we can let in more people that are energetic matches for us. So I think that was a huge turning point for me on my journey.
I agree with you 100%. And when you're giving, when you're naturally very giving, when you're naturally very caring person and soulful person, there's a lot of, you know, underwater hidden stones and, you know, obstacles that you don't know about yourself. And so in terms of alignment, there's a lot of things. There's things like trying to save other people. I went through a huge period of time where these days I really have to pull myself back from giving when I feel like it's coming, because I see somebody in trouble and I want to save them. That's not a good energy. We can't save other people. The only person who can save you is you, you know, so we can't do it for them, right? They have to have their own journey. We can't fast track it. You know, we can maybe mention something, but you have to pull yourself back. So that was one of the things, you know, being a savior and putting boundaries in place and say, okay, you know, sometimes it can really hurt you when you were so aligned with somebody and then you start feeling the change in the shift in the energy, and maybe they feel the same, or you end up in a situation where your relationships are based on what one needs from another, and you might even start resenting the fact that you need that thing that much, and you can't actually exist without that person in your life because you need something that they do for you. And that's another horrible trap and horrible energy as well that shouldn't be there. That's what I always say to my clients: don't do things that you think they need from you. If they want you to do this, that's a different thing. If they want you in your life, you talk about, client attraction energy, you want to attract clients who want you in their lives. They will treat you with respect. They will follow your advice. They will forgive your errors and mistakes, because we forgive our best friends and, people that we love. We forgive small things. We don't question their expertise, authority. We listen to them. We cannot take, maybe we agree to disagree, or we don't necessarily have to take their advice on board, but it's about understanding these things. And so finding, I'm very careful about not being trapped with anybody, especially in my work now, because I am stepping, this is what part of taking control in your business, when you say, well, you know what, yes, I know this client is paying me 80% of my income. And I had that situation in 2018, but we're so misaligned. We're so misaligned that we start raising our voices when we talk to each other. And that is scary. And that is something that cannot happen. It's not healthy. You can't be in this situation. And it was the scariest decision, but it held me back so much. But it's only when I put a date on, I said, I'm going to release this client. I'm going to give him 3 months notice and release this client and try and find something else. I didn't even have to do much. I just saw opportunities coming in. I saw how much more creative I was when I wasn't spending hours obsessing about this person and the bad relationships. And there was just my brand elevated immediately as he had, left my life. And there was so much to it. And that was a big lesson for me, thinking, if we're holding on to these experiences and people and that block our energy, we are actually blocking every good thing that can happen to us. Right. So releasing these things and cutting the cords and, and just releasing them and being okay with it, because they're not the right people. And there are, as you said, billions of people in the world. Each one of us can have plenty of people to make us feel happy, fulfilled, everything, every desire we want. Whether if we are growing a business that's like 1 to millions and billions of people, there's still going to be enough. There's never going to be lack. It's just for you to understand this and be okay with this, I think, is the key. So I love that you mentioned this as well.
Thank you. And I think a lot of it too is just stepping out of fear. I think a lot of these emotions, they're fear-based, right? We cling onto certain things because we're fearful. We're fearful of certain things. We're fearful of being abandoned. We're fearful of being rejected. But once we get past that and realize that, we can come out on the other side, we can come out in an even better space. Releasing those fears can launch us into an even higher place. I think I know that was a huge hurdle for me too. I think sometimes we just cling on to things that are comfortable and familiar, and that's, of course, the way that we've always been doing them. But again, coming back to that energetic place, when you talked about, every time you talk to your client, voices were raised. Well, there's an energy associated with that, right? I mean, that's the energy of anger and, all of those other low vibrational emotions. And getting back to, the law of attraction, the foundational law of the universe, the law of attraction is always operational, regardless of whether we want it to be or not. So when we're in those low vibrational emotions, that's what we're going to be pulling into our existence, even when we're not with this person. So it really is always in our highest good to release lower vibrational emotions, experiences, make the disconnections where we need to, so that can elevate us to a higher place and attract more amazingness into our existence. So
exactly. So it's like so awareness is the first step to getting, better at something. Awareness is the first step. Managing it then is the second step. Yes, it can be scary. Maybe you have, maybe your parents are very imposing. You're an adult and they're still very imposing. It's up to you to start slowly, but setting your boundaries and then stepping back and stepping back. Some things we can't just, sever, and we can't just, in one day. I love burning bridges. I love that if I don't have to deal ever again with, but actually it's not a good strategy. And actually it hurts when something happens and you break up in that kind of bad way. And these are the things that we need to learn to do. But if you're not perfect at them, that's okay. As long as you are moving and trying to manage them in whatever imperfect way you are, because you're a human. Humans are not perfect. We're not meant to be perfect, right? So right. we just need to do this. And it's all fear-based, absolutely. And one word you mentioned that I think we should talk about or highlight is rejection. Because when you're afraid of rejection, especially in business, but anywhere, it's actually happening from you or not loving yourself much. You're not allowing yourself, you're not validating that you are awesome. You are as good as it gets.
Absolutely.
You are for yourself. You know, I had this conversation today with my husband. I showed him Marie Forleo doing some sort of interview. I said, see, Marie Forleo, that's me in a few years, because, you know, and I'm bubbly and everything. And he said, well, then you have to watch the ends of your words, that you're, you know, your voice is very annoying. And I said, I don't care. Those who get annoyed, they can just not watch the show. And this is my show. But people on the TV station, they will not like that. I said, I don't care. It's going to be my TV station. I'm going to do it myself. You have to think about yourself. You have to constantly grow, but at the same time, acknowledge that and love the way you are right now. Because, and the more you do that, the more you grow, the more you will appreciate yourself and actually love it. It's not selfish. It's not self-centered. It's not egotistic. It's just truly just being in alignment with yourself. When you're in that place, you don't care about somebody rejecting you. Yes, you might for a second feel a bit, and then you say, well, you know what, actually, who cares? We're just not energetically aligned. And so it's okay. It's absolutely okay. You know, it's like trying on clothes. You know, sometimes you look good in one type of clothing and you don't look in other, or colors, and you don't look in another color that well.
Right.
So you don't wear it.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. And I think too, sometimes when we release those energies that aren't necessarily in our highest good, we don't realize sometimes how much weight we're carrying until it's lifted. And all of a sudden we make that when maybe the disconnection may have been a little bit turbulent in the short term, but then we come out on the other side and we realize that we are no longer so energetically weighed down. And I think that is huge. And once you do that a couple times, you realize you're constantly looking to kind of weed the garden, right? You're constantly looking,
yes.
What's weighing me down? What is weighing me down? What do I need to prune? What do I need to get rid of so that I can stay in that elevated space.
I love the fact that you said that and about the weeding. And can I give another practical advice? And it's not about people, it's about tasks and things. And I think that you will really appreciate, guys. What changed me was actually, there is a really good, if you are an entrepreneur, or if you need something that you need to be more self-driven, a very good test I took was called Kolbe A Index test. And it's about cognitive behavior, which is your action taking. And that was brilliant for me. It's not that I found out something new about myself. We all know what we are, but it's great to read it back and say, yes, you know what? I am like this. I have no attention to detail. I am giving me a bottom line and I take action, but I will take that action. You know, I am on the top of the scale for action taking. And so I can challenge myself. I can do things. And what I really loved there was, how do you get, you know, not overwhelmed with all the things you need to do? And it was to create a not to do list. So there is a not to do list, and I absolutely love it. I practice it every day. So I write down lists of what I need to do. And then I put the things that I'm not doing today on, you know, another list. And that's my not to do list. I don't care. Today, I'm not going to address it. And from someone who was a real people pleaser. So if I worked with clients, I would put their work as in prioritize it over my business. Okay. And I swapped this around. First, I do things for my business and my visibility. And that took me very long time to it. Even I think I'm not still 100% there. I'm 97% there, but there's still 3% where I'm, you know, not putting myself first. But with that not to do list, I can put that client's work, even though they need to buy a t-shirt saying now because they want everything now, but that's a sign of a bad client. I am just going to do it after my business is looked after. So you put yourself first. It doesn't have to be business. It could be your children and you, because that's where it's so important that you set boundaries, and they will thank you later because you think you may be saying no and you're hurting them, but no, you're actually letting them get used to how life is, because life doesn't say yes all the time, right? So you have to have your boundaries, and you have to respect other people's boundaries. So that could be there that you have to have not to do list, and you say, well, you know, not going to do this today for them, not going to do this. They have to do it, and delegate, and, you know, get it off your plate. And then you are more focusing on things that are good for you. Or then with this test, for example, it allowed me then to see, okay, I'm not very good at attention to detail or fact checking or anything. So I need to delegate that, or I need to avoid things that, you know, there's too much detail, or I need to learn too much detail because it will bog me down. And that means it stops my creative energy. That means I can't do what I want to do. And then I'm not in the energy to even do, let's say, do a video. You have to be energized to do a video. Right. You know, and you know, I need these little things. How can I energize myself? taking things off your plate is a big one, practically. Not to-do list, guys.
I love that. That's a great piece of practical advice, and definitely something I can incorporate into my daily routine as well. We're getting close to wrapping up here. I feel like I could talk to you all day about this stuff. You're so incredibly interesting to talk to and have so much deep wisdom to share. But one thing I just wanted to echo before we close up is this whole concept of self-love and putting yourself first and taking care of yourself before you take care of others. You know, setting boundaries, making those healthy disconnections, filling up your pitcher, making sure that you're fulfilled and you know, in mind, body, and spirit across the board before you can take care of other people. And I know from me personally, you know, I went through years of, I had 4 kids in 7 years. You know, I ran around in yoga pants, a hoodie, no makeup, hair in a ponytail, treated everything like it was a fire drill. You know, I was just kind of running around pretty frazzled, and I wasn't living in that empowered place. And I was stressed, I was exhausted, and it's because I wasn't putting myself first. So I think that is one of the most powerful lessons I've learned through my journey, that I apply to my personal life, that I help other people apply to their lives, that I help, you know, that I exercise even in the business arena, is we have to make sure that we're fulfilled. We have to fill ourselves up first. We have to keep our pitchers full, is the analogy I use, before we can fill up other people's cups. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're trying to pour from a bone dry pitcher. And it's amazing. It's amazing how much more we have to give to others once we are full, right? Once we are full spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. And now I too am in this space where, you know, I'm doing more as a single mom now than I think I ever would have been able to do when I was in that place where I would call myself kind of energetically tethered, not because of what anybody else was doing, but because of how I was allowing my life to run me. And I think just self-empowerment, stepping into that place, is just, you realize how incredibly limitless you are. And I applaud you for, I mean, your journey is just amazing to sit here and listen to, how you've transmuted your pain into power. And I know that you've given people so much hope, and you've shared so much wisdom. And I appreciate you sharing just so genuinely and so authentically and truly from the heart. I mean, that's how we connect. That's how we change the world, is by being real and sharing our stories. So I thank you for being a guest on my show. You've been delightful to talk to. I look forward to keeping in touch with you. If people would like to get in touch with you directly, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, if you want to be in my world, you can follow my Facebook profile. Actually, I'm on my personal profile. That's where I really show up. Juliette Stapleton, just have a look at it. You won't miss it, because I have a pretty and pink kind of picture. You won't miss me. But if you want to get more visible, check out my website, juliettestapleton.com, and we can take it from there. There's so many free goodies on that website. So that's going to be your starting point. And I'm so glad that I was able to share that part of my journey, even though, you know, this is what I talk about all the time, because I think that that's where everything starts. It's from self-love.
Yep, definitely. Definitely. Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you were on my show. And to all of our listeners and viewers, thank you to you as well. I so appreciate you being here. I always say time is a choice, and you've consciously chosen to carve out an hour of your day to listen to the show and to listen to all of the wisdom and knowledge that Juliette has imparted on us today. So thank you very much for being here. Remember to visit liveauthentically.today/FB, and we'd love to have you as part of our community. And also stay tuned for more details on my book launch that will be out in the next couple months. Thank you, and hope you all have a great day.